Guys, today we are talking about Pink Floyd's Atom Heart Mother. This album was created in 1970, and it is really a transition album for Pink Floyd. It's an album where they continued the experimentation of Ummagumma, but they brought in more of a structured symphonic classical sort of sound and influence. Again, we have an album with several acoustic tracks. You have If by Roger Waters, and so it's again like Ummagumma, where you have several tracks by different members of the band. You have If by Roger Waters, you have Summer of '68 by Rick Wright, and then you have Fat Old Son by David Gilmour. And then the band collaborated at the end to create a 13-minute song called Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast. But let's first talk about side one of the album. If you've got the vinyl, it'll be the entire side one. And then when you turn it over, there will be the other songs. But the entire side one is the Atom Heart Mother Suite. Now, this is a song where they brought in an avant-garde composer, Ron Geeson, who had either previously worked with Roger Waters or worked with him later on. I don't remember which came first, Atom Heart Mother or The Body. But Geeson and Roger Waters have worked together on more than just Atom Heart Mother. So with this one, you had a symphonic sound because you had Geeson's orchestra that came in, and then you still had the pastoral Floyd sound, and you had a little bit of variety there, and then you had the avant-garde sort of sound of Alan's Psychedelic Breakfast. The Atom Heart Mother Suite, as they call it, because that's what it is divided into 6 sections or 6 movements of the entire suite. And the entire suite is technically just instrumental, but there are some voices and vocal arrangements within the song, as well as, there's some saturation of sound effects. You also have the symphony, a choral piece in the symphony, and of course the band playing the foundation of the song to begin with, which was originally called The Amazing Pudding, and then they decided to call it Atom Heart Mother after they came up with that name for the album, which they got from a newspaper. They were just trying to come up with a name. They wanted to avoid the sort of space rock psychedelic moniker that they had been attached to, or had been attached to them. And so they came up with an idea to put something as, lacking of that as possible, something, that's totally not psychedelic. And, the irony of the situation is that it later became very psychedelic, and it later became, just so odd that they would just put a cow in front of it. That's Pink Floyd, how odd, how psychedelic. So, it's the irony of it is interesting. But again, the suite is divided into 6 or 7 parts. I think 6 parts. There's just a lot of instrumentation used. Like I said, there's a choral movement in it. There's strings, horns, the band. You have a lot of textures, dark, light, upbeat, subdued. A lot of different. There's a lot of variety just within the suite. Not counting the album, there's a lot of variety on the album as well. A lot of people. This is what I consider to be the album that Floyd really started into prog. They really became, this is a prog album, a progressive rock album. And I think that the suite, personally, is a masterpiece. And I don't use that word lightly. I think that it is a masterpiece of progressive music. The Floyd, even today, some of them sort of turn their nose at it, or think, well, we could have done something different or whatever. But I really think the album deserves another look, and I think it deserves to be called a masterpiece of prog rock, and that's what I'm going to call it. So a lot of people say it's pretentious, as prog rock in general. Many people who are not fans of prog rock say, "Oh, that's pretentious music." But to me, that title is, mostly coming from people who just enjoy thump, 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 or twang, 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 twang. The same conventional, nothing changes, nothing progresses, everything sounds the same style of music. I think that progressive music is different than that. Progressive music is a listening experience. It's not just something you slap in as background noise or to drive down the road. Progressive music is a listening experience. It takes actual talent and skill to do these things. It's very creative. That's why they call it progressive. It is progressing music. It is expanding your horizons beyond the conventional. And that's exactly what Pink Floyd Atom Heart Mother does. It is an album where you want to sit down, put your headphones on, and experience what is happening. It is one of my favorite Pink Floyd albums. So I'm going to give it a high rating, as you probably could already tell. It also gives you a taste of the classic Floyd sound. The sound, what I consider to be the classic Floyd sound, is from Dark Side to pre-Final Cut. That area right in there. Probably the most well-known classic albums are Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here. Although I prefer Animals over both of those albums. But we'll get to that later. Again, side 2 is the pastoral classics, Roger Waters, Rick Wright's Summer of '68, which is a very interesting song. It's very progressive in and of its structure, the song. A lot of changes in that song as well. Fat Old Son is pure David Gilmour. Beautiful guitar work, one of the best solos I think he ever put together. It's the second solo I ever learned on guitar, and I still don't know all of it. The Floyd sound changed with this album, and they became the Floyd that you know and love if you're a popular Floyd fan. Now, if you're just a diehard Floyd fan like I am, then you love everything Floyd does. You love Seamus and Several Species and the weird kind of crazy stuff. But this is, again, the taste of the classic Floyd sound. I think it's an extremely underrated album, although it did go #1 in the UK. I think, over time, it has become underrated. And that's sad, because I really think that it is a very good album. It's not pretentious. It's not that sort of self-important that's not really important. It really is important. It's an important progress. It's important for the progress of Floyd and important for the progress of music in general. The cover, as you've seen probably already, is the cow, like I explained a while ago. This is actually one of my favorite covers for any Pink Floyd album. And I think, again, they just wanted something simple and just, hey, let's just throw a cow on here, or let's just throw something, non-psychedelic. And again, it turned out to be very psychedelic, over as time progressed. Because it's ambiguous, it's just unorthodox and ambiguous, and that's sort of what psychedelic is, experimentation. Fat Old Son is actually one of the songs off the album that is still, you can still hear today. Gilmour still plays it in some of his live shows today. So And it's a very, I recommend it. I recommend every song on the album. It's progressive, it's symphonic, it's full of variety, it's prog, it's progressive. Overall, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. Would have given it a 5, but I think some parts of If are a little too slow, and but 4.5 out of 5. Essential Floyd album, essential prog album, essential album. Adam Hart Mother, check it out. Highly recommended.